sex chromosomes and sex-linked genes. So the chromosomes are going to determine sex in many species. In mammals, the male has an X, Y, and the female has two X's. The Y chromosomes have the genes for the development of testes, whereas the absence of the Y allows ovaries to develop. In some animals, the environmental temperature will determine the sex. So this is some reptiles. The temperature at which the eggs are incubated will determine whether those animals will become male or female. So global climate change will have an impact on the sex ratios of these species. In some insects, they have an XX system. So the males are X and the females get two X's. In birds, we have a ZW system where the males get two Z's and the females get a ZW. In honeybees, it's the number of chromosomes. So male bees will develop from unfertilized eggs. They're haploid and they'll produce sperm by mitosis. So the genes that are on these sex chromosomes are not all related to sex. A gene located on either sex chromosome is called sex-linked because it tends to be inherited with the sex. The X chromosome carries many X-linked genes that are unrelated to sex. Recessive X-linked traits are much more likely to be expressed in a male because the male's phenotype results from his single X-linked chromosome. So look at the length of these two chromosomes. A female gets two X's. A male gets an X and this little tiny short Y. So all of the genes that are here do not have homologs. And so whatever is on this X will be expressed, whether it's recessive or dominant, because there is nothing over here. So let's look at the inheritance of white eye color in fruit flies to illustrate this concept. So fruit flies can have red eyes or white eyes. White eyes is an X-linked recessive trait. So we're going to look at 3 generations of crosses. In our first cross, we have a homozygous female, and she carries the dominant R for red eyes at both loci. The male that we're mating her with is a white-eyed male. That's why this box is white, and he carries the recessive gene on his X chromosome. His Y chromosome has no genes. So when they make their gametes, the female will make gametes that are all X with that capital R, and the male will make gametes that are X with the recessive and Y with no gene. The offspring will be X with the capital R, X with the recessive. And so the females will all have red eyes. The males will also have red eyes because they'll get a dominant gene from that X. In our next cross, we're going to cross our heterozygous female with a red-eyed male. So the male will produce gametes that look like this. It'll have an X with the dominant R for red eyes and a Y. The female will produce some with the dominant X and some with the recessive X. So the offspring will be, so we'll get 1/4 female with RR, 1/4 female with capital R, little r, the heterozygote. Then we'll get half of the males will have red eyes and half of the males will have white eyes. If we further breed one of our heterozygote females with a white-eyed male, we'll get, the male will produce an X with a recessive and a Y with no gene. The female will produce some with the dominant red eyes and some with the recessive white eyes. And we'll get half of our females will be red-eyed. So these will be the females. She'll get this one is a heterozygote. This one is homozygous for white eyes. For the male, we'll get a red-eyed male, and we'll get a white-eyed male. So in humans, sex-linked disorders mostly affect males because we have that shortened Y. And one of the most famous examples is Queen Victoria. She had a mutation on her X chromosome, and she then passed that gene on to her children and eventually on to little Alexis here, who was supposed to inherit the throne in Russia and was very ill with hemophilia. You can look at her whole family tree here. Yellows are normal females. The circles that are half green are carriers. Normal males are yellow squares, and hemophilic males are the green squares. So you can see that the problem arose here with Victoria. She gave a defective X to Alice, Leopold, and Beatrice. And then you can follow how the hemophilia is transmitted through the generations. And they keep getting, these were all ended up being the royal houses of Europe because her children married other royal houses. Okay, so that's the end of this section. You've done well.